Scott, it's obviously been a busy couple of weeks for yourself. Let's go back to before the start of this camp. How happy were you with the preparation going into the matches against Croatia and the Faroe Islands?
Yeah, relatively happy. We managed to get a few extra sessions in because the season finished early here and a lot of the boys hadn't played, and that proposed its own problems. With going into the game, our boys hadn't played for 35 days, going a month without games is very difficult going into it. You look at the contrast between the two teams we played against. The Croatia manager had complained that his players hadn't played for a week and that some had played 50 plus games before going into the campaign. Faroe Islands are a third of the way through their season, so they were very match fit and match sharp. It's something that we wasn't going into the game, something we knew about, so we had to manage our load going into the week.
Going into that first game now, a 7-0 loss, obviously a very tough one to take, but are there still positives to be taken away from that game?
Yeah, definitely. We saw Kai Maro step up and look like he played 30 games at left back against a very strong Croatia team. Jaden managed to come in and do fantastic as well. Liam, Jessup, exactly the same. Carlos Richards, Tyler Carrington made his debut. So I think all of these positives coming in, these young boys are showing that they're ready to start getting some game time and more importantly push the players that are in the positions above them and fighting for competition for places.
Some notable changes to the usual starters in this game. Was there a deeper reason behind that?
Yeah, when you got into it, we've mentioned before about the load management, we also had 5 yellow cards, and it was important that the squad was together as a whole and I had the full team to pick from going into the Faroes game. So we couldn't play everyone, we couldn't rest everyone, and we didn't want to risk losing those players. So Brito sat out, Dan sat out to start off with. The plan was for TJ to play 45, which he did. Ayub sat out fully, and Louis was to come off at some point in the second half and give one of the young boys, one of the young centre-backs some game time, which we did that with Tyler coming on.
So, moving on to the Faroes game now. That's the second time in 4 games where we've taken the lead. Is that a highlight of the campaign so far?
Yeah, it's definitely a positive. I think with that positive comes a downside. That puts us in a position that we're not used to or haven't been previously. And when you've got the lead, you tend to get a bit more negative, you drop a bit deeper, subconsciously, even though the message was from the sidelines and from before the game that if we do take the lead, we have to stay on the front foot, we have to maintain what we're doing. Naturally, when you're not used to being in that situation, you do fall back, and I think we fell into that trap, especially against the Faroes, who are a very good team. They've made leaps and bounds, the 38th in the rankings, I believe. So it was always going to be difficult, and we created our own pressure because of that.
We held on to our lead for large parts of that game. You've touched on it there, but was there a temptation to shut up shop?
I think the short answer is yes. The problem with that is you don't get anything out of it. We've said from day one that these games are all about development, and if we'd have shut up shop after that one, maybe gone to a low block, a back 5, there wouldn't have been any coaching points, there'd have been no teaching for me to speak to the boys after the game on what we can do better in the style of play or in the formation we want to play. I've now got 90 minutes of footage to go over to show the boys what we can do better, how we can do well against those teams. Now, in a greater magnitude of a game, maybe in the playoffs next year or a Nations League game where all those points really matter, yes, we're maybe a bit more conservative with our approach to substitutions and the way it goes. But it was important that we fight through those tough times like we did against the Faroes, and it gives us more coaching points to come out at the end with.
You've stuck with a young squad, including some players that have been previously overlooked. So, from your perspective, what was the thought process behind that?
I think when you look at the players that we're bringing in, we're coming to the end of a generation of players who've carried us for a long time now, either coming to the end of their career or getting older, and we have to bring in these young boys to bolster the 24, 25-year-olds that we've got with 24, 25 caps. Now with that comes a lack of experience with young boys coming into it, but they need to gain that experience that has previously been left off in the last regime. There's been a generation of boys who've missed out on game time. Now when that comes into it, we need to put them into positions on the pitch that, yes, it might make them vulnerable, but it's going to give us that valuable video analysis afterwards that we can go over with them. And more importantly, those videos, that footage, we can show to the younger teams as well coming up. So when they make the step to the first team, they can see who's failed in front of them and what to do better. So it's massively important that we use these young boys now and use this time and give them time to gain that valuable experience.
And with your squad selection, we've seen a lot of boys from the EYDP come through and make it into the first team, which is obviously fantastic to see. Now, from your position, someone who's been in charge of the EYDP over the years, how fantastic is that for you?
It's great. I think we've now, for the first time ever, the seniors is not a closed shop, which it has been for as long as I've been here and before as well. Now we have full autonomy from the under-7s all the way up to the senior team. So it's massively important that we have that fluidity of the age groups and how they're going to play. And progression for the long term is not always seen in the short term. We see bits of it, but over the time, and of course the time, the year, going into the playoffs next year and beyond, that's where you really see the fruits of those labours.